Okay.
All right.
Um,
And let's see. Okay, so last week we had our instructor training class, and we had quite a few people that were brand new. They'd only been to, maybe 3 or 4 trainings. And then we had people who had been, they teach here every day. They've been training for a lot. So we all worked out together, reviewed one of the forms, and then we broke up into different groups to work on different skills. And Keith took the beginner group, and then I took the advanced group. And it worked out kind of good because we split the classroom, we shared the classroom, and what I was working on with the instructors was projecting their voice and speaking clearly and concisely, and reminding them that when they are teaching, they have to teach to the person in the very back of the room and teach in such a way that everybody that's in the room can understand them when they're doing the large group. So I had them, they had a person across from them on the other side of the room, and they had to all teach next to each other loud enough for the person across from them on the other side of the room to understand what they were saying. And it was it was interesting. They're so surprised that they're not being heard, that they feel like they're talking loud, but they're talking loud in a conversation. They're not projecting their voice out to be, what I call commanding, to have a command voice. So that was really great practice for them. I then had the um, more experienced instructors switch places so that they were on the other side of the room and their counterpart was, far back. And I had them teach something that had nothing to do with martial arts. It was whatever they wanted. Somebody was teaching swimming lessons, and whatever they wanted to teach. And what was interesting was that they were heard because they've learned how to project their voice, but the person didn't necessarily understand what they were talking about because it was a subject they weren't familiar with. And that was a good reminder that your class is made up of people, especially your beginners class, that have no idea of your jargon or the name of your moves, or you're calling out commands maybe in a different language or something, and how confusing that is to try to learn, try to hear, learn, and do something you've never even heard or seen before, or you're only just a few weeks in. So it was a good lesson on, one, projection, and then two, uh, reminding them that the the new people in class have no idea what you mean when you say, jump out in your middle stance or hands up, because I've had kids say, all right, say, get your hands up. And they're like, no, it's just, so the importance of, slowing down a little bit for the beginner, being clear and concise in their speech. And so we talked about being clear and concise as well as the projection. And I always remind the instructors that if your class isn't doing what you asked them to do, or they seem confused, look at yourself and how you could have done a better job explaining it. Um, Not that the student is not listening or that they're not intelligent, but always just try to rearrange how you communicate, especially if the majority of the class isn't quite understanding what it is you're asking. So that was a good practice. And then Keith, I'll turn it over to you for just a little bit, because you had the other group and you were working on the find, acknowledge, reward. So you want to speak a little bit, how that went?
Yes, man. This was actually just a great drill. It's such a simple drill, but we drill it all the time. Um, and I had them teach a technique, and I had them at first just you know do the techniques as well as you can. Don't be goofy or anything. Um, and I had them working one-on-one actually. So because a lot of those newer assistants in the class are just learning how to assist with the class. They're not going to get a group of 10 kids right now because they're not ready for that. They're still in the, holding targets in the lines, maybe attacking for some of their self-defense and lines. But they're actually not going to be leading a group yet. So we just worked on more of a one-on-one situation where um, and actually they didn't even teach the move. I just called out a technique. That person had to do the move, and then they had to find something they liked about the move and acknowledge it and give them a reward. And a reward can be a high five, a thumbs up. I always joke around and said the finger guns, just something funny, just trying to get people to relax, and it's okay to a little pat on the shoulder. We go over what's appropriate, right, for class, high fives and some fist bumps and pats on the shoulder. Then I had them do where the basically they did the moves terribly. And then, and the instructors still had to practice finding something good about the move, and that worked really well. They had a little more fun with that one. But it's also realistic. You get that 7-year-old kid that's uncoordinated, and they're supposed to do a low block, and you have no idea what the heck they did. Um, and we still want to start off the we still want to be able to find something positive, basically, right? And then so I told him, hey, your hair's looking great today. Let's work on this low block. Um, I always, I was like, I said, so I told them, if I ever tell you your hair is looking good, that means that the move was executed poorly. Because I couldn't find something positive. I'm just messing. Just a joke, but anyway, we did 5 or 6 rounds of that, and it just honing in that skill, and I'm trying to teach them that that's how they need to be ingrain how they need to speak to the students. Always be finding the positive. And then after you find the positive, give them a high five. Then you can start correcting them, right? Hey, maybe they're doing a front kick, right, and maybe the kick they were missing the chamber and rechamber, but they did a good job keeping their hands up, right? So, awesome job, Johnny, keeping those hands up. Give them a high five, um, and then from there, uh, say, okay, now we need to work on your chamber and rechamber, help them with that, and then again reward them again after that. So for our new members, it was just really good repetition practice. Some of them were 12 years old, and so it was just brand new to them. And then we actually had 40 through 60-year-olds in there as well. So, and they were all working together. It worked really good.
So, so that's just a little example of how we spent our 45 minutes last week with the instructor training. And I think one of the important things is that as they go in and start working, those new guys have something to work with. Okay, all right, so I'm out here, I'm helping out this week. I'm supposed to find people who are doing things right and let them know they're doing a good job. So they have a mission. And then the more experienced instructors are working on making sure they are reminded what it's like to be a beginner, to speak clearly and loudly, so all week they're going to be focusing, the week that they had, were focusing on that. This week, in our instructor training class, we're going to be working on, with the more experienced students, role playing speaking to parents. So as they're, a certified instructor, or looking at becoming a certified instructor, they've been doing this a while. How do you go up to a parent? I mean, it's easy to say, hey, Alex did great today. He was really trying his very best. But how do you go to a parent when they weren't trying their best, or they had to be in timeout in class? So that's the role playing that we're going to work on tonight with the more experienced students. And then the beginner students, I'm going to go into a little bit of a deep dive of the beginner curriculum, like what form, what techniques, what self-defense moves does a beginner really need to know. And it is amazing to me. They've been doing these moves for a long time, but then they have to turn around and teach how to teach it. They forget a lot of the details. So I'm going to focus with the newer students on just that beginner level material, and do kind of a deep dive technique practice on those moves, while the more experienced ones are working on that role playing, talking to parents. So just to give you an idea as you're working with your instructors, and like he said, they're 12-year olds, so 12-year-olds in there on up. um, Day one helping out to they've been teaching for 5 years, so everybody can learn something from that. And it's it's also a good way to foster teamwork with the group because they're trying things together, they're talking together, they're messing up, they're succeeding, everything together. And then you have that kind of camaraderie where, people aren't, I like to build an environment where people are not afraid to make a mistake because we're all going to do it. And if they feel like they're in a safe place where they make a mistake and, we just learn from it, maybe we all laugh together, but that way they can just feel confident and start building their confidence so when they get on the mat they're ready to go. But that's really about four things that you could do in your instructor training class this week. You might pick two, just depends on how your group is structured. If you have all beginners, I would just do the two beginner exercises. But if you have more advanced folks like yourself, if you want to split those up into groups, and that works fine also. So nobody feels like, they work together at the beginning, but then we split up and work on more specific parts, just like we do in a rank class. Beginners work on something and more advanced students work on something else. Um, what did you guys do this week for your instructor training? Or last week? We're just getting started.
So yes, for the instructor training, I was just walking around and watching, and Mr. Angel, the
Mm.
Grandmaster Angel. Yes, so he did those role plays where everyone in the class had to come in the front of the instructor training and greet the class, bow them in, and do maybe a warm up or maybe welcome the new student in the class, tie their belt, and recognizing them. That's what he did.
Very
So far,
good. That public speaking and knowing what to say and how to do it and doing it with confidence, that's excellent start.
yes. So that's what he did for the instructor training for the classes that I watched. Um, and they did good. They did good with those role plays. And then for my class, just for the regular class, what I did because we are preparing for testing,
Uh-huh.
so we were hammering on forms and like their curriculum. And then I was because when you're doing forms over and over, it might seem not so interesting.
Hmm.
So what I did was I split them into two groups and said, so I think I had a group of like five kids, and the other group I had six. So everyone had to lead the form just by starting by their count. Everyone had to
Uh-huh.
follow count. Then
Nice.
after they and the next person comes in the front, lead the form just by counting.
How old
And
were the students in this group?
in this group, maybe about 7 to 13 year olds.
That's
Nice.
Yeah, that's perfect. I mean, that's a great drill to get them one, obviously form review.
It's for
That's very good. But
and
two, get used
count-
to getting up in front.
they're under pressure
Mhm.
because they're leading the form and they have to count the numbers, the movements, which is they have to practice like using their voice. And then after that, I moved on to just the jab. So I said, okay, you watch the class, count like just the one punch, and I want you to compliment each person in your group. Tell them, oh, hey, nice jab, or good timing, good speed, good chamber. Just compliment each person in the group. Then the next person comes, and everyone had to do that.
That's fantastic. And then that gives you a starting point too of how did they do? What do I need to make sure they understand better? And um, you don't know that until you get out. You let them have that opportunity, and
Yes,
do that. And that's where you can really start to become more the mentor part too for them, not just the facilitator of their martial arts training or the instructor, but you become somebody that is helping them be a better person all the way around. So it sounds awesome.
absolutely.
So with the goal of this, being to increase the number of assistants and leaders and instructors on the mat over the last few months, do you guys feel like you're putting more emphasis in developing those leaders over the last few months? Like, do you feel like that's been uh, a main focus of your academy?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We
Yeah,
have like maybe one or two in each class assisting. So that
nice,
has been.
good. That's great. Um, and then are you seeing the assistants, other people wanting to join in, as well, like other people asking, how do I become an assistant? Have you started to generate that?
Yes,
Yeah,
they are about that, about the master's program.
nice.
Tell them yes. It is by invitation, but we are also looking and seeing who is ready.
Absolutely.
And with those like exercises that I do in class, you can see the kids that are almost ready to be in that instructor training.
That's
That,
great.
that's awesome. That's the whole point is developing the next generation of leaders and giving you guys that are doing all the teaching some support and some help.
It, the help is sometimes, yes, you need those people to help you with
Yeah,
the
and,
class.
it's so great to have like your roster of people that can assist, and then if you're shorthanded one day, you can send some texts out and get some. I just I, I love having the mat just well covered, having lots of volunteers out there, lots of people. Our rule is no more than 6 kids in a line, and 'cause if you got 20 kids and only two of you, you got 10 kids in a line. And for us, our rule, that's just too much. So we got to come up with a different plan. And I don't even like 6. I'd like to do more like 4, so I like to have, if we've got 40 kids in class, that means I need 10 assistants, to have 4. It doesn't always work out like that, but sometimes it does. Or then you can split the class in half and you can have some people holding targets over here and we can do form over here. But yeah, I love having those assistants on the mat, and it just allows you to be more creative as an instructor too, and get
But
more individual attention.
you focus more on create on trying to have a good class than like correcting and tying belts.
Trying to survive the class.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, let's just get through this hour. you know um yeah, well,
And
great,
also,
that's good.
you said something about holding targets. I'm using that as well. That it's teaching them that it is a responsibility to hold the target. You have to be good at it, and you are helping your partner, and you also have to compliment them, tell them something great about how they're doing, which encourages them.
Love to see that. Just so many places, martial arts schools included, are maybe not taking that moment to teach that little lesson in there, to teach, number one, how to hold the pad, but then number two, you have to give a compliment. I mean, that's just those skills, and those, getting kids, and the kids that are doing that at 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, it's just gonna be ingrained in their system. And um, that's just an amazing skill. And I hope that the parents see that, what you guys are doing, and the value of that.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I know we talked about a lot of stuff very quickly, good stuff. um, if there's not any other things that you wanted to go over today, we can call it a day. Or if you had any other questions, we can certainly take some time to address them.
I should write down some questions because I never thought. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, feel free to write those down, or and then next time we can go over it. But I appreciate you, and good luck this week. Have a great week.
We are giving out letters this week for testing. The intent to promote.
Nice.
So yes, it's going to be a busy week with that.
Yeah, it's one of the busiest weeks is when you're doing the testings,
Yeah.
graduations. So,
Uh-huh.
all right, sir. Well, tell everyone we said hello, please. All
I will. Thank you.
right,
All
thank
right,
you. Bye bye.
have a good
Bye.
one.
You too.